They say the best ideas are often the simplest, but there's a fine line between simple and stupid. Some ideas are so dumb, they're actually genius. Let's check out 20 of these dumb ideas that somehow actually work. Number 20. The Big Flush. You've probably heard of synchronized ice skating and swimming, but what about synchronized flushing? No, it's not the next big Olympic sport. It's Zimbabwe's answer to their blocked sewage pipes problem. In 2012, the mayor of Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, ordered residents to flush their toilets simultaneously for an hour twice a week to keep the pipes from becoming clogged. As the blockages were due to flushed matter drying out and getting stuck in shoddy pipework, the Big Flush would keep the pipes wet, hopefully solving the problem. Admittedly, many residents deemed it successful. Other residents, however, felt the leaders should be looking at more permanent solutions. I'd agree. Citywide clogged toilets are definitely worth causing a stink about. Number 19. Mirror Mountain. The village of Viganella in Italy was built at the bottom of such a steep valley that the sun disappears behind the mountains throughout winter. That's 3 entire months in total shadow. But in 2005, an engineer and an architect visited the village and came up with an idea. You can't move the mountains, but what if you could reflect the sun's rays? The village raised 100,000 euros to construct a 400 square foot mirror for just such a purpose, which now reflects the winter sun down to the valley. The idea was so successful that the Norwegian town of Rjukan also installed a sun mirror in 2013 to even greater effect. Rjukan used to spend 6 months in darkness, but now thrives under its reflected sun. Just don't try to use the mirror to fix your hair. You'll probably go blind. Number 18. Iced shoe. Aren't you tired of having stanky shoes even after washing them? Ever thought about just throwing them in the freezer? Yep, it sounds crazy, but when you freeze your shoes for a good few hours, it kills the odor-producing bacteria. Just remember to put them in a Ziploc bag first before you throw them in. You want to get the smell out of your shoes, not give your food foot fungus. Number 17. Flamin' hot. When civilization inevitably collapses, you'll probably need to kindle a fire at some point. But of all the useful relics of the civilized world, there's a surprisingly common fire-making tool that might surprise you. Doritos. Your stockpiles of these snacks may actually come in handy, as their high carbohydrate and oil content makes them an ideal fire-starting material with a surprisingly long burn time. But don't be fooled by the names. Cool Ranch works just as well as Flamin' Hot Nacho Cheese flavor. Number 16. Making a stand. If you get tired of holding your tablet upright while watching movies, this next solution is just for you. All you need are a couple of clothes hangers and a lazy temperament. By threading a folding tablet case around a plastic hanger, you can hang it from your ceiling fan or bunk bed. If you want to take it up a notch to big brain level, carefully fold a metal hanger and live the life of a very modern DIY genius. It's amazing what brilliance our laziness inspires. Relax smarter, not harder. Number 15. Cheese floss. Do you stay up late at night worrying your cheese isn't practicing proper dental hygiene? Of course you do. Luckily, there's a solution that combines dairy snacks with flossing. It's also weirdly satisfying to watch. Thanks to the razor thinness of floss, it's perfect for cutting foods like cake and cheese when your knives are dirty. That said, only use unscented floss unless you're into minty cheese. Number 14. Anti-knot powder. When your shoelaces and jewelry become tangled in knots, it can be extremely frustrating. But a simple solution can be found easily in your pantry or bathroom cabinet. By sprinkling some cornstarch or talcum powder on stubborn knots, you lubricate the material with the tiny particles, making it easier to untie. It sounds bizarre, but it really works. A big congratulations to whoever figured this one out. Number 13. 3 weeks notice. Reddit user Stellapotamus should be congratulated for his amazing solution to a needlessly overcomplicated doctor's appointment cancellation. When the Redditor went to cancel his appointment, he was told there was a $200 charge for canceling without a week's notice. But he also realized it was free to reschedule, so he rescheduled his appointment for 3 weeks' time. Moments after doing so, he asked to cancel the appointment. The receptionist told him they needed a week's notice to do so without the charge. Stellapotamus politely pointed out that his appointment was now in 3 weeks' time. The receptionist realized they'd been had, but could do nothing but accept it, saying, "Oh, okay, sure." With a polite thank you, Stellapotamus ended the encounter and smugly went about his day. That poor receptionist never stood a chance. Number 12. Stop right there. If you ever find yourself waiting for a while at a bus stop in Germany that seems suspiciously devoid of buses, you may well be at a fake bus stop, especially in Dusseldorf, the first place to bring in the bizarre practice. But why? Well, German nursing homes have started using this tactic to keep Alzheimer's patients from wandering off. While the patient's short-term memory slowly disintegrates, certain long-term memories remain, like remembering the purpose of a bus stop. Patients occasionally escape and flock to the bus stop, assuming it will take them home. Of course, the bus stops, while provided by the city's transport networks, aren't actually connected to any transport lines. When the staff notice the patients out there waiting for hours with little concept of time, they know exactly what's happened. Staff bring them back in telling patients that the bus is late and will come later. Once they get back to the home, they forget they left in the first place. Number 11. Percussive maintenance. When the Apple III computer released in 1980, it came with a number of flaws, including overheating, which caused the integrated chips to expand and become dislodged. Steve Jobs refused to add noisy vents to the design, so Apple proposed another solution. In a technical bulletin, they instructed problem-encountering owners to lift the machine 3 inches and drop it in order to reset the chips on the logic board. It worked, and the whole story seems to suggest that your old man hitting the TV to fix the signal wasn't just an act of idiotic frustration. Man-on-machine violence, fixing electronics since 1980. Number 10. Off the hook. For Jasper Lawrence, allergies were a problem his entire life. So when he heard about Dr. David P. Strachan's hygiene hypothesis, he was convinced the answer to his problem was parasites. The theory, based on studies into the impressive immunity of primitive tribes around the world, suggested that parasites and bacteria help maintain the internal balance of our bodies. So Jasper made a trip to Cameroon and infected himself with 50 hookworms. At the end of the 8-week incubation period, he realized that his symptoms had declined significantly. Hookworms are thought to regulate inflammation in the host's body, which reduces the extreme effects of allergies. But the question is, would you turn your body into a medicinal worm farm? Number 9. The syphilis solution. In the early 1900s, Austrian physician and psychiatrist Julius Wagner Jauregg experimented with an unusual treatment for syphilis. At that time, syphilis was a common disease which often proved deadly over time, with no proper pharmaceutical cure. However, it was understood that in many cases, high fevers could cure the disease, so Wagner Jauregg developed malariotherapy, intentionally infecting syphilis patients with malaria to induce a fever and kill off the disease. Since medication to treat malaria was available, it was considered an acceptable risk. This technique was used from 1917 to the 1940s and even earned Wagner Jauregg a Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1927. Number 8. Night witches. Between 1942 and 1945, the members of a night bomber division of the Soviet Air Force made up of only female pilots garnered a fearsome reputation as the terrors of the skies. Given the nickname Night Witches, the group used Polikarpov U-2 biplanes to drop bombs on Nazi targets. The planes were small and slow, only holding 2 bombs at a time, and were easy to shoot down if detected. So the Night Witches came up with a solution. When the pilot was nearing her target, she would cut the engine off mid-air. The plane would glide down almost silently, and before the enemy even knew they were there, they would restart engines and drop their bombs. Sounds like a dangerous plan, sure, but they were highly successful. And if it works, it works. Number 7. The man for the job. When 2 dolphins at an aquarium in Fushan, China were found to have swallowed plastic shards, veterinarians were unable to remove them. So they turned to someone truly unexpected and yet totally obvious. Mongolian herdsman Bao Yishun, the Guinness World Record's tallest man, standing at 7 feet 8.95 inches. Bao used his 42-inch long arms to reach down and extract the shards from the dolphin's stomachs successfully. Now that's good use of human resources. Number 6. Galactic DIY. When an electrical unit malfunctioned on the International Space Station in 2012, onboard astronauts Sunita Williams and Akihito Hoshide needed to replace it. But when they tried to attach the unit to the spacecraft, they were unable to, as metal shavings had gathered inside the connecting bolts. After a grueling 4 hours with no luck, it was time to remove their rocket scientist hats and don their handyman hats. Thinking on their feet, they fastened a toothbrush to a metal pole and started scrubbing away the metal fillings. After another 4 hours, they were finally able to attach the new unit, And just like that, a $3 toothbrush saved a $100 billion space station. Number 5. Adaptive technology. If you ever find yourself stuck without an HDMI adapter, with no other way of connecting your device to the TV, don't panic. Your entertainment needs aren't as doomed as they seem. Simply follow the lead of this genius who hooked his camcorder up to the TV and aimed it at his tablet, which was streaming the big game. There's no doubt about it, this guy is living in 3019. Number 4. Fires suck. Sometimes there's a fine line between a genius idea and grounds for divorce. I'll let you decide which category this guy falls under, though I'm voting genius. By depriving a flame of oxygen and pulling the fuel into a vacuum chamber, you can put out a fire using a Hoover. It goes without saying though, you should probably pick an extinguisher over a Dyson if your house is up in smoke. But funnily enough, this method is actually proposed for use by astronauts, so it might be genius after all. Your significant other probably won't think so though. Number 3. Safe or soaked. When the Longxiang Bus Company in the Hunan province received numerous passenger complaints about their drivers' unsafe, erratic driving, they came up with a solution. Next to the drivers, they hung large bowls of water, intended to deter the drivers from making sudden stops or sharp turns, on threat of a jolly good soaking. The bowls were expected to remain full when drivers finished their shift, and to keep drivers from refilling the bowls, they installed CCTV. Seeing as they failed to take sharp stops caused by other dangerous drivers into consideration, the company's idea doesn't really hold water. Number 2. Counter camouflage. Thanks to their amazing camouflage abilities, having a pet chameleon can easily turn into a near impossible game of hide and seek. Luckily, Redditor's Impenetrable Fog came up with a solution: tying a balloon to your chameleon. Mr. Chameleon, however, doesn't look too pleased by his floating companion. Number 1. Tough on stains. Household cleaning products are great and all, but can any help when your pesky roommate leaves his radioactive material strewn about the place? Surprisingly, yes. When a huge nuclear site in northern Scotland was being decommissioned, moving the plutonium-stained steel equipment presented a serious hazard to workers. The equipment needed to be decontaminated, but the standard cleaning agent slowed down the process, taking too long to dry. After a worker mentioned seeing an advert where household cleaner Sillet Bank stripped dirt off a coin, they have seriously suggested giving it a try. It turned out to be extremely effective for the plutonium stains and proved to significantly reduce the cost of the project. Now that's what I call bang for your buck. Which of these solutions were you most surprised actually worked? Do you have any dumb solutions that are surprisingly effective? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.